Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to whoever it is in the world you are streaming here on Twitter, as well as those of you over on YouTube. What's happening? Let's get this up. All right. Got all my devices going. 7:51 p.m. Pacific time. Game 4 in the books. Western Conference Finals. Going 6. Minimum. Headed back to Oklahoma City with the series tied at 2. How did we get there? Couple of notes on this one. I'm going to wait a couple of seconds. It's probably frustrating for those of you watching back on replay, but since we are live, I do like to afford some people the opportunity to join, and I will vamp now for the next 20 seconds until we get right into it. What's up, Nota Gang? See you guys in the chat. What's up, Soto Jocks? Some of these screen names, Soto Jockstrap. Yet another. What are these terms being used? It was a pivotal game 4 tonight. It's a pivotal game 5. Let me guess, game 6 and game 7 are pivotal. They're all pivotal. It's a playoff series. We got to come up with some new terms or just drop the adjectives anyway. All right. Yep. Chat has an inclination as to where this show was headed, and this is a good time to start. So how did we get here? That is the most mortal Oklahoma City's offense has looked in quite some time. The first thing that stands out is the flippening of points off of turnovers. Tonight, total turnovers for the Oklahoma City Thunder, 20 at the mercy of San Antonio's defense. 25 points conceded off of those turnovers, only 13 and 13 you will see right here for the San Antonio Spurs. 20 and 25, that is supposed to be what Oklahoma City does to their opponent. Not the other team, but it is San Antonio's point of attack perimeter defense that stands tall tonight, nearly doubling the points conceded off of turnovers. This is the facet of the game that is the equivalent of the total rebounding statistics for the New York Knicks. If they win that category, they win almost every single playoff game they've participated in. And for the Thunder, it's turnovers and points off of turnovers, where they usually make up the entire score differential in this one box score statistic alone. Tonight, this would explain how and why San Antonio was able to get this done. Once again, before I come off the screen, 20 turnovers for Oklahoma City, 25 points conceded off of them. Now, there's a gaping hole in Oklahoma City's offense right now because there's no A.J. Mitchell and no J-Dub, not or, and no J-Dub for the first time this series. And chat is on to it. They're already asking the question, who's going to be Oklahoma City's number 2? Because now San Antonio is not throwing those extra bodies at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. A very clear tactical pivot by Oklahoma City's defense. You know what? I'm going to get this right. Sorry, I'm distracted. Let's try that one more time. Strategical pivot by San Antonio's defense against an Oklahoma City offense that does not have a true secondary scorer because Chet Holmgren is AWOL, SOS, especially in terms of initiating for himself and others. Anything that Chet Holmgren gets offensively this series feels like it's at the rim, and then he feels the presence of Victor Wembanyama to the point that he's altering his shots. Luke Cornett got him with a Eiffel Tower type of rejection off the glass there in the beginning of the fourth quarter, and he quite simply has not had the effect that earned him all NBA status. So no AJ Mitchell, no J-Dub. That means someone else is going to have to step up and create offense and not just live off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's gravity and sphere of influence. Guy's the MVP. But now I'm going to pose the same question to the Thunder that we had for the Detroit Pistons since the playoffs began. Honestly, since the trade deadline passed, who the hell is your secondary scorer? Who can take some of that pressure off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Because when they're not throwing second bodies at Shai anymore, that is their way of telling you if he wants to go out there and score 40 or 50 against Steph Castle, against Champagny and Vassell, we've got elite defenders that can make his life difficult. But no longer is J-Dub or AJ Mitchell available to punish us if we do send those double teams. They have great jump shooters. You saw a lot of Isaiah Joe and you saw a lot of Jared McCain tonight. Jared McCain had an inefficient shooting performance compared to his previous couple of games. But there's no one that you really are scared about off the dribble if those two are not going to be present and or in uniform for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I found Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be pressing tonight the way that he was pressing in game one. And what I mean by pressing is almost tilting, which is more of a gambling casino term. Tilting is when you're starting to lose and you're starting to press your money a little bit to try and make up for those losses. You start making some selfish decisions. And there was a moment with 7 minutes and 20 seconds left in the third quarter where I watched Shai Gilgeous-Alexander look at Chet Holmgren wide open in the corner, where strong side help came from San Antonio, very uncharacteristic of them. I watched Shai Gilgeous-Alexander try and force a mid-range pull-up over Wembanyama, over the help defense, when they should have absolutely kicked that to the corner for a wide-open Chet three. At that point, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, what did he finish tonight? I mean, my goodness. He goes, Shai Gilgeous tonight, 6 of 15 from the floor and only 7 free throw attempts. Starter worst, minus 18. That was not a good game from him. 4 turnovers, 7 assists. But it was more of the decision-making tonight in which I would be quite displeased with if I'm a Thunder fan. Yeah, he was pressing out there, man. And I love San Antonio's decision. Just stay at home and trust your defenders against that guy. Because you are almost bailing out Oklahoma City by sending the second body in the double team. Now, if we're in the final, let's say 5 minutes, and we're in a clutch game, 1 or 2 possessions, and you want to start sending that second body because someone else has to beat us in this type of atmosphere, that I would understand. But tonight, there was a clear directive from Mitch Johnson and the San Antonio bench that they were going to let Shai Gilgeous-Alexander score 50 against him if he could, and he most certainly did not. Because if you were to send Alex Caruso's guy like the San Antonio Spurs were doing for the first 3 games of this series, you're saying, Alex Caruso, if you want to beat us, so be it. We're willing to live if Alex Caruso wants to go 7 of 11 from three-point land. The same way in the Eastern Conference, teams are daring Josh Hart to beat them. If you want to score 27 points, we'll tip our hat and head to Senor Frogs in Cancun. There was none of that tonight. There was no leaving Alex Caruso, McCain, Isaiah Joe open. Now, it was certainly smart by Mark Daigneault to surround Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with 4 elite shooters, because at this point, you do have to consider Caruso at least someone that's elite in this series, maybe not percentage-wise throughout the season. But if he's surrounded by Caruso, McCain, Joe, and Jay Will, those are guys that you cannot leave in this series. And that's exactly what San Antonio did. And they say, Steph Castle, hold the line. Keldon Johnson, Vassell, Champagny, Fox, hold the line. All right, what else? I know, like, if Oklahoma City, it's so funny how narratives work, because if OKC ends up winning this game somehow, I know everyone would be in here bitching yet again about the 2 plays in the first half that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander embellished and, more importantly, was rewarded. And that's where this conversation heads next. Shai is going to fall. It is a statement of fact. It's not even an opinion. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to fall over. And before you go onto the internet, well, there's no repercussions. You can just say anything you want on the internet. It doesn't matter anymore. There's no such thing as journalistic standards. So just get your jokes off. Just vent. Do whatever the fuck you want. But if you want to come in here and have a nuanced conversation about the state of the NBA, and you're saying NBA's got to step in and do something about this, they have. They have changed the rules, first of all, so that you can't rip through, you can't kick your legs out. Unnatural shooting motions are supposed to be officiated as offensive fouls. There's also a flopping violation when you see players go like this. They're trying to get the referees to call a flopping violation. When was the last time that was called? Or a fine was levied for flopping? It's quite rare. Quite rare. The rules are in place for Shai falling over when Steph Castle, or it was De'Aaron Fox, right? That barely maybe made contact with his knee in the slightest on that invasion of landing space that, of course, Scott Foster of all people called. The rules are in place, but the way that they are enforced is everything. So it's not, the NBA has the set of rules, but it's at the referee's discretion to not reward embellishment. And we said this a couple of shows ago, that if you're a San Antonio fan, you want Shea to keep falling over. Yes, the crowd is going to yell, flopper, flopper. You want him to keep falling over, because if the referees properly assess that he is just trying to embellish, then he will be on his back with the San Antonio Spurs having the opportunity to get out into power play basketball 5-on-4. Just keep falling over. As long as the refs don't call it, he's going to have to learn at some point. You're not going to get those calls anymore. But if you give him one and you give him two like you did in the first half, here we are. It's just enough of a sample size for everyone that's looking for the easy discussion, low-hanging fruit narrative, the conversation you have about the NBA when you go to a bar with a bunch of mainstream sports fans. You go to a barbershop, that's all they're going to talk about, because it's the easiest to discuss at that level. It's basketball 101. It's not basketball 401. There was 2 examples of it tonight where I thought, oh, this shit's going viral, like in a heartbeat, because the referees rewarded it. Okay, so we discussed San Antonio's defensive shift tonight, and I am curious to hear from the chat how you guys think Oklahoma City now will counterpunch back in OKC if there's no AJ Mitchell and no J-Dub. If Chet Holmgren is not capable of stepping in there as someone that can create offense, draw help, create gravity, then who the hell on Oklahoma City is it going to be? Otherwise, they are going to look like an offense out of Detroit where it was Cade Cunningham trying to break down 3 different guys. And then when you finally start to send some help, that's when he starts deferring to the corners, and the Detroit Pistons are able to get some open looks. But no one else is creating that or having the defense collapse on dribble penetration right now with anyone on that roster. It should be Chet, but he is completely nullified by Victor Wembanyama. And the last thing I'll say before I start going back and reading some comments, appreciate y'all joining tonight's show. I know it's Memorial Day weekend here in the United States. For those of you around the world, this is a big holiday weekend where people usually vacation. So I anticipated the room being a little light, as this is a prime time vacation, but only the sickos are here to discuss for this evening. Victor Wembanyama comes out there. What was the difference between this and games 2 and 3? The accusations after game 3 were that he's going to get tired. He's being used so much. Well, 2 differences here. What was if I went and tracked this and charted this after I'm done doing this live stream, I'd be willing to bet that this is an accurate hypothesis, that Victor Wembanyama received a majority of his entry passes in the middle of the floor tonight inside of the 3-point arc compared to games 2 and 3. He is quite literally unstoppable because of his size and skill. If he receives the ball between the elbows or the nail on the free throw line, all he has to do is turn, face, and put the ball above his head to have the full optionality of triple threat positioning, which is dribble, pass, or shoot. And there's really nothing that anyone can do about it. Now, if Victor Wembanyama puts the ball on the floor outside the 3-point arc, that's not really advantageous, because that's where Oklahoma City thrives. They want a big man to put the ball on the floor because they're so handsy. They're good at deflecting. They jump passing lanes. You are nullifying or negating your own advantage at 7'5" if you put the ball on the floor. It's got a longer distance to travel from the wood back up to your hands, and Oklahoma City is going to jump on that in a heartbeat. But if you catch it down low in one of those more, I would say, attractive positions on the court for a big man. This isn't Shaquille O'Neal just standing on the block or Hakeem saying, give me the ball right here. But getting Victor Wembanyama the basketball in a spot that makes the defense have to collapse on top of him was essential into getting the rest of the team involved. So did those points off of turnovers, because now you get layups and fast breaks in secondary transition. You start to see the ball go through the hoop. And Victor tonight was a little bit more, I thought, while we're on the topic of selfish, I thought he was himself a little bit more selfish tonight, but I'd say that as a compliment, and that, you know what? I'm just going to go beat Victor Wembanyama for a second. You guys mind? Nope, not at all. There's plenty of those tonight where he just either attacked the rim, he rolled a little bit harder off of those high ball screens with De'Aaron Fox. And Oklahoma City found themselves struggling to find offense to match this level of firepower since they don't have their secondary creators anymore. How the floor tilts when you can get your superstar in that spot with help on the other side. That is why the Knicks are at where they're at. Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson splitting the court in half with their spheres of influence and what they do. In the past, it was always Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on an island on one side of the floor, sending second bodies to get the ball out of his hands, and then it would be AJ Mitchell or J-Dub slashing, catching that skip pass, and making defenses pay every day, ending in a Y. And I just did not feel that same threat from Oklahoma City tonight with the roster that's available to them. Now, this is certainly not an excuse. They're 15 deep. But in the category of offensive creativity, if J-Dub and AJ Mitchell were available, I would rank their roster SGA 1, J-Dub 2, AJ 3, and then it's supposed to be Chet, but he's MIA. Is it Jared McCain? Is it Jared McCain that's going to have to step in here and beat someone off the dribble? Because it's not just beating someone off the dribble to score for yourself. It's beating someone off the dribble and also making that pass to get an Isaiah Joe or whomever open on the other side of the floor. Lou Dort's been played off the floor in this series. With his team option coming up next year, he's on his way to a play-in tournament team in the Eastern Conference. They're not going to bring him back at the money he's going to be receiving in an open market. So he's been played out of this series. Chet Holmgren, in a way, is being played out of this series, at least the all-NBA version of him. Looking like, he's just looking like a character out of Space Jam that just had their talent stolen. He can't finish. He can't create space. He can't shoot. He doesn't have any confidence. He's missing free throws. And that's impactful to him on the other side of the floor when he's lacking confidence. That's a funny chat, by the way. ID Stroud says if we keep saying pivotal, it's win or go home for the Knicks tomorrow. Right? Yes, Carly. For those of you that don't know, this is an Isaiah Thomas Boston Celtics shirt when he lost his tooth that one night and says, "You can't handle the tooth." It's ridiculous. Oh, and speaking of Memorial Day, my whiteboard over here, desert foxes don't know beaches. I'd be very interested to hear if anyone in the chat knows what I'm talking about. It's a little clue. Let's go to some chats. I'm going to scroll through right now. AB Karzai says, I got my wisdom teeth removed a few days ago, and I'm on the soft food diet. My food has been like the Cavs' effort last night. That's the first comment that I read. Wow. Okay. Castle was elite at defending Shai tonight. He's elite at defending Shai without fouling and just forcing him to take as difficult shots as possible. If there's anyone in the NBA that can make tough shots at a high volume, it's that man. But is it sustainable 4 out of 7 times? Even the great Kevin Durant has told us that the answer to that question is no. Shai's really going to need AJ or J-Dub back so that when he wants to defer on some of these half-court possessions and he creates just enough to force San Antonio weak side defender to put a foot in the paint, that's when AJ and J-Dub become so dangerous because this is the whole reason why Golden State traded for Jimmy Butler. Like, do you know how open you're going to be with the entire world chasing around Steph Curry? You're going to get like the third defender on the team on the other side of the floor. You get to do anything you want in the world with him. That same concept applies to AJ Mitchell and J-Dub. Timology says, I feel like Shai's decisions were fine, but the team went 6 of 33 from 3, and most were wide open. Well, we live in an NBA where you got to make shots. Ask the Boston Celtics. Harrison Barnes, veteran spark plug. Didn't love those Harrison Barnes minutes tonight, even though he had some flashes. It's such a... Oh, I forgot the most important the most important statistic to share with you all. How about the Luke Cornett minutes? Luke Cornett finishes only a -9 in 13 minutes. Believe it or not, the non-Wemby minutes with Luke Cornett weren't a -1 per minute. It was less than -1 per minute. It's still bad. It still needs to be solved, but they didn't get absolutely destroyed like they have been for the entirety of this series. The non-Wemby minutes are now on par with the non-Nikola Jokic minutes in Denver. Like, you're just doing a sign of the cross or whatever God you worship. Those 2 stints that he goes out there, usually for 5 to 6 minutes, that you guys are going to survive that. And at least tonight they did. They gave away points, but not as many as usual. Teriyaki Takes says OKC and Chet need to do screen and pops to stretch the floor. If it was that easy, they'd be doing it already. And Chet Holmgren has been passive, hesitant, not ready to shoot. He brings the ball down a lot. And it's not like, I mean, if there's one team that can rival Oklahoma City with big guys on the perimeter being required to put the ball on the floor and what happens next, OKC has always made you pay doing that. Well, San Antonio is a close second, even though OKC's been historically great. Vakidis says, Wob, people take phones on vacation, FYI. I wouldn't be watching me on vacation, but that's just a me choice. I appreciate you if that's what you're doing. Wow, we even get a Hellwick sighting in the chat. How about that? How was the Pitbull concert? You missed the big shows because of Pitbull. It's like Knicks fans going to the Met Gala instead of the playoff game. Come on, Hellwick. Carter James says, absolutely massive that Wemby only had to play 30 minutes tonight. Yeah, for sure. I think we were overreacting to the amount of minutes he played in games 2 and 3, thinking he's going to wear down. Like, have we forgotten that Tom Thibodeau sent his boys out there for 44 minutes a night for like 2 straight years and the team still made the conference finals? It's possible. Guys in the 90s were playing 40 minutes. But, of course, his usage is going to be higher than anyone else. Spurs also don't bite. Oh, yeah, I noticed that too. So some of these best defenses, the best defenses, you're right, do not bite on pump fakes. Why would you ever bite on a pump fake? What happens next? Let's say you correctly guess that they're shooting. You have to block the shot without fouling and keep it in bounds. The chances of that happening, unless you're Victor Wembanyama, are quite low. What's the point of biting on a pump fake? Just stay down, because the referees are looking for any sort of contact or reason to blow the whistle. Invading landing space, it feels like the risk versus reward of jumping to block a shot in today's game is just not worth it. Stay grounded, put your hand over their eyes so they can't see the rim, and hope they miss. Defense is really freaking hard to play. Desert foxes don't know how to chill? No. Try again. Desert foxes don't know beaches. It's Memorial Day. 2 Jeopardy clues that should make it very obvious for anyone that knows World War II generals or major events. Desert foxes don't like beaches. This is a tribute to Memorial Day. Man, how about those all-NBA teams? Dylan Schuler says, why does Chet look so below average? 3rd-team all-NBA. Jalen Duren makes 3rd-team all-NBA. My God, that now means that he qualifies for the booster to that rookie max scale extension, which could have him making near $60 million at the end of his rookie max scale. Something tells me Detroit is not going to be willing to pay that. And then what? Slipping Sammy 4 says, missed the beginning of the stream. Do you feel the Spurs or Thunder come out on top in this best of 3? If AJ and J-Dub don't return to the series, San Antonio will win. If J-Dub or AJ Mitchell return, I will still lean Oklahoma City. Sam says, Rob, wrong chat. Beware of the birds in the air alerts been. Well, we've had wildfire here in Los Angeles, which has taken up a lot of the chopper's time. And you've probably seen on the national news, there's a huge chemical spill in Garden Grove that's on the verge of exploding like Chernobyl, which is kind of concerning. But what am I going to do about it? And that's where all the news has been the past couple of weeks. So no police chases. We're at the mercy of the news with those. My fucking handle says -9 and a 20-point win is actually insane for Luke Cornett. Yeah. Those non-Wemby minutes are a prayer. And they went the first Wemby bench minutes, they gave up like the first 3 buckets, I think, of the quarter. And I was waiting for Mitch Johnson to call timeout, put Wemby right back in as they were starting to sacrifice that lead, trying to keep him ready, willing, and able. I'm like, how much is it worth it? You got diminishing returns with this rest starting to hit. But in the end, it worked out. But that is absolutely going to be a theme, as those Luke Cornett plus minuses have been brutal. Tomology says, I prefer the physicality in a series like this. Just seemed odd that no one comments on the hacking of Shea tonight versus the hacking of Wemby by Hart 2 games ago. Thoughts? It's always going to be dependent on the referee crews and their tendencies. A Tony Brothers crew, game 2 is going to be significantly different than a Scott Foster crew. But it's so funny to watch how many whistles are blown by Scott Foster himself and not his lieutenants. So you have to treat every game differently, as referees have different attitudes, different mindsets, different tendencies, all the above. JPO in the YouTube chat says, do I think Denny Avdia was snubbed? Not a single Blazer making any award is crazy. Well, my mind has been tainted by the playoffs, and considering how Denny looked versus Jalen Duren, I probably would have swapped them, but it is a regular season award, and Jalen Duren was a monster. Jay Rule in the YouTube chat asks, has this changed your opinion on Oklahoma City beating the Knicks 4-1? Not if AJ and J-Dub are available, I would have Oklahoma City 4, Knicks 1 in the finals. It's a terrible matchup for us. But if they're not healthy, that obviously changes. And now that this series is headed to at least 6 games, the Knicks close out tomorrow. They're going to have they just had 8 full days off. When does the final start? Can someone look that up in the chat? I don't think it starts till June 6th. It's usually like June 6th. The Knicks will be off forever. They look terrible in that first game back. Oh, my God. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to claim this as proprietary thought, but it is so funny how Antonio and I brought this up after game 1, and now it's just spreads like wildfire, because we talk to so many people in the industry, and he gets texts from referees and executives, and they're listening to our show and how they like verbatim take. Now every show is talking about Chet for Giannis. And we had this as like our big series preview, that if Chet does not show up in this series and they lose to Victor Wembanyama, I think they're going to pull the plug on Chet and send him to Milwaukee. Yeah. But a long way to go here. What are my thoughts on Keldon minutes in this matchup? They've been terrible, but I was proposing putting Keldon at the 5 and going small ball to let him just be a glass cleaner. Just let him rebound. Taking Cornette off the floor, going small against Oklahoma City to try and steal those Cornette minutes, because this clearly is not working. I know they won the game tonight, but the process of continuing to put Luke Cornette onto the floor is they are bleeding out every time Cornette is. He is as unplayable in this series as Lou Dort is for OKC. Unplayable rankings right now. Luke Cornette 1, Dort 2, Chet 3. That's sad to say, but it is the reality at the moment. June 3rd, thank you to the YouTube chat. Emil12 says June 3rd is our first NBA Finals game. And is it true? I saw something today about the Stanley Cup and NBA are overlapping almost every single game. Who at the NHL thought that was a good idea? They're going to be competing against each other with the exception of game 4. Only one game from a tweet that I saw. I need to follow up with it. But if that's true, what are y'all doing? I just read a comment in the Twitter chat. I mean, it's true, and it's not malicious, so I'll read it. MMS5519 says, non-Wemby minutes are like the black vote for Republicans. You don't have to win them. You just need it to not be a disaster. I mean, that is accurate, I guess. True. Do you want to come out of that net zero the way that the Nuggets would have signed up for net zero? Just play the score dead even by the time Jokic came back in. All of those years. So, hey, someone in the YouTube chat finally got it. Desert Foxes Don't Know Beaches refers to Rommel, the Desert Fox, Erwin Rommel. Those of you that don't know, the most prestigious general of the Nazi army, the Wehrmacht, Erwin Rommel. His North African campaign earned him the nickname the Desert Fox. He was tasked by Hitler with commanding and overseeing and manning, overseeing, and the Atlantic Wall is what I'm getting at. The Western Front defense against the invading Americans and allies. It was Erwin Rommel's responsibility to make sure that the allies did not make it off of those beaches. And he failed mightily. And then he was sort of tied to the Valkyrie campaign with Colonel von Stauffenberg, the Wolf Slayer bomb. He may or may not have been a part of those meetings to get rid of Hitler. And it was just enough for Hitler to say, you're either going to die with prestige and honor, or we're just going to kill you. So you can take care of it yourself. You failed at protecting the Atlantic Wall. So you choose. And he ultimately died with honor. More chats. Hunt to 2019. I know this is too early to ask, but if OKC loses this series, you think they will go after? Yes. Someone, maybe you asked that question before I addressed it. Yeah, the package is pretty simple. It's going to be Chet. It'll be Chet, 3 picks, 3 first-round picks, and one of their rookie-controlled guys, like a toe pitch or whatever, just to match the money. But Oklahoma City will also need to get underneath the apron so that they can aggregate contracts. Or aggregate players, excuse me. One More Bet says they stacked Wemby's minutes very similarly to how Jokic played in the first and second quarter, deep in first 9 to 10 minutes in the first, then sat about 8 minutes in the second. So Wemby tonight did not come out until the end of the first quarter completely. Usually they get taken out at that 3-minute TV timeout, as One More Bet is discussing in the chat. But Wemby played the entirety of the first. Then they gave up some quick buckets with Luke Cornette on the floor. No timeout by San Antonio. They did clap back. They did strike back. But it is still, obviously, with Luke Cornette going -9 in 13 minutes, that is easily my number 2 question that needs answering behind Oklahoma City's secondary scorer and what they plan on doing without AJ or J-Dub. Thoughts on the Knicks courtside seats for the finals being $300,000 for game 1? That's about the number I would think. You have people with that type of money, especially in New York. And think about it. How much would a really rich person pay to hang out at a party that's 2.5 hours long with this level of entertainment, to be sitting next to all of these A-list celebrities, politicians, and executives? They would pay $300,000 just to be in the same room as them, let alone a Knicks finals game. So if you're blessed with having that type of money, that there's definitely going to be buyers for that, especially if it's New York or Los Angeles, of course. Final start Wednesday, June 3rd. Yep. Helwig says, I know the Knicks won game 1, but both conference finals game 1s make me think that rest disadvantage helps. Yeah, the Knicks came out looking like the regular season Knicks for the first 3 quarters of that game. No, I'm sorry. Between quarters 2 and 4.5, they looked like the regular season apathetic defensive Knicks. They were not ready for that type of energy or game speed. And that's probably going to happen in game 1 if it's in Oklahoma City or San Antonio, get their doors blown off after. So if they close out tomorrow, that's May 25th. There's 31 days, June 3rd. So we're talking May 25th, 6 plus. We're talking near 9-10 days off for the Knicks if they close out tomorrow. That's too much rest, in my opinion. Spurs Nuns versus Pope Leo Nova boys. Which team is holier? The Nova boys. Villanova is a Catholic college. Yeah, definitely the Knicks. The Pope's going to be rooting for the Knicks. someone in the chat joined right in the middle of when I was explaining Erwin Rommel's defense. Germany's most prestigious general defending the Atlantic Wall against the English, Canadians, and Americans. You thought you were coming into a basketball show? No, sir. Why don't you turn on the History Channel and go watch some Band of Brothers? Get a good education. There must have been so many people that joined the show. Double AVT says we've gotten to World War II portion of basketball already. It's Memorial Day weekend. This is when it's most appropriate. Who are the Knicks wanting to win this series? San Antonio. But I think going 7 and one of the teams come limping, whoever the victor is, no pun intended, whoever the victor of this series is, I think the Knicks would prefer that they are limping into the finals with some guys that may or may not be available. But you're also not like rooting for people to get hurt. It's that weird injury karma thing. Oh, Erwin is the guy who tried to invade my city, Alexandria. I passed by the cemetery of the Battle of Alamein on my way to a pretty beach holiday. That sounds fantastic. Does that mean you are from Egypt? What was it? Or did he fight in Libya? Algeria? Algeria. I think that's where it is. Tell me where that is. You guys know ball in the chat. So Carter's asking, how do war generals and tactics match up today compared to World War II? Can you imagine the way that we talk about basketball if we talked about World War III? Back in my day in World War II, we got into trenches. We defended the Maginot Line back in my day. We used flamethrowers to clear trenches back in my day. Now y'all get to use drones. You kidding me? Our recovery in basketball was a shot of whiskey and a cigarette. Now you get hyper ices and uh, those chambers. What are those cryo something chambers? That's a good point. Selfish Wemby is better than selfless Wemby. Yeah. Tonight, Victor Wembanyama made a point to make sure that I am going to be aggressive with my decision making and lean towards the selfish side as opposed to getting someone else going. I really felt that energy from him that I'm going to attack this rim and really put pressure on the referees, knowing we're down 2-1. Alexandria, Egypt. Okay, good to know. Thank you. Slipping Sammy says, feels like the Spurs in MSG Christmas Day game. That was the Mikal masterclass. Could be the type of basketball that we see, and the Knicks can do it. Yeah, I think the Knicks, I'll feel completely different about the series against San Antonio. The Knicks beat them in the NBA Cup, Christmas Day game. They match up quite well. We also didn't see Oklahoma City go to the fronting strategy of Victor Wembanyama anymore. With maybe because they don't have J-Dub, but they were doing it with Caruso. I wonder what happened to that, because they really committed to the three-quarters front strategy, and that's what the Knicks were doing to Victor Wembanyama with OG. The idea there is to force the entry pass to the sidelines so that when someone like Wemby finally gets the ball and turns and faces, he's got to put it on the floor against OG 25 feet away from the rim as opposed to the free throw line. And then you trust an OG to be able to try and take that basketball from him, considering how tall the guy is that's handling it. But yeah, it's just Oklahoma City is a terrible matchup for the Knicks. It's been that way for the last 2 years. They have physical defenders that don't need help against Jalen Brunson. The size and physicality impacts him. The Knicks have trouble completing passes. A lot of those like slashes that they do with Karl Anthony Towns at the top of the key. Guess what? Oklahoma City purposely denies that entry pass. So Cat just doesn't get touches against OKC. He doesn't get shots up. He doesn't have assists. He turns into Mr. Catch and Shoot. And it's very frustrating. And if those regular season games translate to the playoffs, it's going to be a 4-1 finals if J-Dub and AJ Mitchell are healthy. Lionel Messi says, Rommel correctly predicted the Allies' landing, but Hitler made him move troops to Calais. I forgot how to pronounce that. Calais, I think is how you say it. It would have been worse had he listened. Yeah, but the Germans also fell for the balloons that the Allies were building at the south shore of the island, making it seem like that's where they were going to go invade. But those the balloons, the blow up things, right? The fake planes, it made it look like they were building up, headed south when the forces were really congregating to go east to Normandy. Yeah. And there's a movie coming out with they have what's his face? They have Captain Winter playing Montgomery or some English guy in the weather movie that forced D-Day to be delayed by a full day. How reliant they were on the weather being solid to get those forces across the English Channel. They had to delay it. And the Germans may have known they were coming and moved their tanks and forces to prepare Utah and Omaha Beach for the landing Americans. Could be a whole different world that we live in today. No, I know where Alexandria is, AB Karzai. I just didn't know you lived in Alexandria specifically. Oh, Pressure. Yes. Thank you, Romo. Comes out tomorrow. I'll be watching. Great timing that it drops on Memorial Day. Is it in theaters or is it on a streaming network? Because if it's on a streaming network, that means I can stream it illegally. Because I watched Mortal Kombat 2 today, and it has to be one of the worst movies I've ever seen. The fighting scenes are are on par with the video game, but how do they keep coming out with movies that are so bad? It's just lacking of any sort of plot, character development. They just fight and they say corny shit. LMB in the YouTube chat says, Wob, check out this De'Aaron Fox quote. Pop apparently came into the locker room after game 3 and said how the Spurs played was bullshit. Where's the quote? Oh, that is the quote that he said. Pop came in there and said, y'all suck. Yeah, that'll get you going. Did I see Atkinson's quote of them winning 2 out of 3 analytically? I thought that did analytics quite the disservice because there's a lot of people and content creators out there that are doing cool shit with analytics. It gets them jobs. That can find ways to create stuff that people are interested in. But when you have a head coach go out there and say, we've actually won 2 out of the 3 games analytically, without even specifying like what analytics you won, what does that mean? Well, his basis was the expected points based on the quality of look, which suggests we are just shooting poorly. And that's the reason why we're losing games. Well, there's a reason why you're shooting poorly. Because your defense is allowing the Knicks to catch fire. It's contagious. And then your boys are demoralized. And then they're out of it. They quit in the final 2 minutes last night. Are those shots wide open? But these are not robots. These are humans that are feeling the weight of being down 2-0 with their crowd walking out and booing them. So yes, you may be getting open looks that haven't been going in, but it's not as simple as we're just going to stick with the system because it'll eventually come back around. That's not the way that it works. I think that's quite naive. Oh, it's in theaters. Yeah, I was looking forward to Brendan Fraser in that movie, but I didn't like how they made, I think Major Winners is Montgomery. I don't want him to change characters from Band of Brothers. Who allowed that? Who allowed that? I was fine with Tom Hanks going from Private Ryan to the Battle of Midway, the Greyhound movie. I think that was the Battle of Midway. Was it the Battle of Midway? Or was that was the Tom Hanks Greyhound movie on German shore? I forgot. One of the two. But he turns into a naval captain. That wasn't as much of a, because at least he's fighting on the same American side. Obi in the YouTube chat says unethical war, flopping by the Germans. I love all this World War II talk. Look at you guys. Kenny's gone after the Pacers collapse, and now this. Yeah, his job is going to be his seat's going to be a little toasty. Did Draymond Green forget to switch to the burner today? So he was like responding to some little girl? Is that what happened? He yelled at some little girl? Unfortunately, NBA Twitter has turned into a bunch of teenagers, so I can't say I'm up to date with the drama, but I think that's what I saw pop up. It has like 20 million views, that one tweet. And what does crush that little girl mean? I don't know what crush means. The thing with Draymond is he is so, when he's like actually talking basketball, X's and O stuff, and he's not rage baiting, even when he's on inside the NBA, he's good at creating controversy while it's still being part of the show. Like if there's any active player that would fit in perfectly there, it's Draymond. But we heard him speak on the Jalen Brunson roasting James Harden in game 1 of that series. And he went on and on about all the reasons why you can't, like he would never let Steph Curry be in that position. And he audited like every decision made by the coaching staff, I thought very well. And I'm like, man, if he just stuck to this, he would be one of the most well-respected analysts, because then he does some shit like I would do, or someone on NBA Twitter would do. And then he starts chirping little teenage girls. And I think that takes away from, like, we're talking about a future Hall of Famer here, multiple-time champion. It's different if I do that than if he does that. he has a certain prestige and reputation about him, because for as many times as he has been guilty of flagrant acts, he is still one of the most knowledgeable basketball players, at least defensively and in that system, as we have seen in this generation. And every time he just stoops down to the level of a online NBA Twitter person, I think it takes a little bit of away from what he's built. That's all. Maybe I'm just old now. Oh, here's the quote. Thank you from I'm the Sin. Darren Fox said, "We lost game 3, but that was the first time he walked into the locker room and was like, nah, that's bullshit. That's not how we play basketball." And obviously he had some choice words for us. That was the first time all season that he came into the locker room right after a game and told us how we felt, or how he felt. Wow. Sorry. Bless me. Yeah. For Pop to do that, considering his health, he must have been pretty pissed, or he had some motivation to do it. I feel like that scene from here comes Wobb's movie analogy. Prepare, Kingdom of Heaven, where the leper king decides to ride out from Jerusalem to meet Salahuddin. If you ride, you'll die. But he has to go out there to meet him to prevent war. And Pop has to leave his suite. He has to leave his chair to go there and right the ship, even if I'll die. Someone out there is going to understand the analogy I just made. I don't want to get too Bill Simmons-y on you guys, but oh my God. Who is the NBA's Goebbels? Oh my God. This is the only day that you can ask it because it's Memorial Day. Who is the NBA's propagandist? I'm not even going to answer that. Did you guys see that question that someone asked at the end of game 3? Jalen Brunson, since you're the king of New York, would you like to recommend to the NYPD that they reopen the Fan Fest outside of Penn Station? You just put him in the most impossible spot, because if he supports the NYPD, then he's going to get people yelling at him for supporting police. If he says no, then he's not looking out for people's safety, or they'll start accusing him of like politics. It was one of the worst questions I've ever heard. How do you get a microphone and think that's a good idea to ask? It's just simply someone who has to be inexperienced, because usually those ridiculous questions come from international press, are much more like either forthright, blunt, or looking to create narratives. That's just kind of what they do, and it's the standard practice over there. But I thought that was ridiculous last night. Oh, it was a grown woman who had a younger picture of herself, and that's what Draymond was referencing. Okay, that makes more sense. She is an NBA troll Twitter account. Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess I am too. I am on Twitter for the most part, but if you're in this show, you understand when I'm being serious and when I'm trolling. So that's on most other people. Is responding to rage baiters considered new media? Yes. I never understand why people respond to anybody. No one has ever won an argument on the internet, ever. Because even if you dunk on them, you're just giving that person you're dunking on more attention. And they'll get views, they'll get followers, and it just grows their profile even more. That's why you see me respond to nobody. It's my way of insulting you, that you're not worth my time. What's the best online resource to learn basketball tactics, coaching, strategy? I have no clue, man. Sorry. Late night with what? NBA Goebbels has to be either Draymond or Tony Brothers. Oh my God, Tony Brothers. Come on, man. These comments. MCC says he loves to hear himself talk, so it waters down how brilliant of a basketball mind he is. Yeah. I mean, I went to Golden State for we had exclusive access with SiriusXM before the previous season. I talked to Steph, I talked to Draymond, talked to Kerr, talked to Dunleavy, got like 20 minutes with all of them. Draymond is incredibly knowledgeable about the sport of basketball. And if that was your first time hearing from him, you'd be like, that guy knows his shit. But then he responds to some little teenager and says, I'm going to crush you or crush your soul or something. It's like, what? Ghassan Massoud, who played Salahuddin in Kingdom of Heaven, is a phenomenal actor, by the way. He's great in that movie. What a great character. I wonder if he was that. What's the word I'm looking for? He was quite honorable. Wonder if he was like that in real life. Orlando Bloom. What does Jerusalem mean? Nothing. Step. Everything. Oh, it's so good. I love that movie. Helwick says, since the Thunder moved to Oklahoma City, every Spurs Thunder series has been 2-2 and decided in 6. I trust you. Only you would know that. The quote tweet cycle that keeps aggregate accounts alive. Yep. Especially with algorithms today. If you can find a way to rage bait properly, your tweet will be put into the For You algorithm for between 1 and 2 days before it turns over. Great way to get attention ever since they shifted from the chronological one. So that's why rage baiting is so popular. I mean, I like doing it too. I know the buttons to hit. My hockey tweet the other night, that I knew the moment I pressed publish on that, I knew that was going to hit hard. That was one of my longest rage bait tweets. I said I like hockey, but the sport will never get the mainstream attention it wants. Like, just the way that's worded, the mainstream attention that it wants. If you can't see the puck go in the net, which is like the biggest way to determine if you're a true hardo hockey fan. We can see the puck go in the net. Fix your eyes. And I'm like thousands and thousands, all of these hockey podcasts turning this shit into topics on their shows. I was actually being kind of serious, but then I started editing it and turning it into rage bait. What they should do, honestly, hockey should have their normal broadcast, and then they should provide a streaming only broadcast where they glow the puck for us beginners that can't see, or have this trained eye to see when the puck goes in the net. Bring back the glow puck, but don't make it the main broadcast. It's the easiest solve in the world. No one's going to watch a sport in which you can't see the team score. Carter says, I laughed when you responded to Q Rich's quote, tweeting a blatantly obvious fake news post. I reached out to him through obviously I have a couple of players I'm very close with, and one of them is his former teammate. And I'm like, you got to tell Q Rich because he's on NBA TV, he's on ESPN. And this dude for like a straight week just kept talking about completely fake tweets and reports. And he just wouldn't stop. He gets fooled all the time. And I'm like, it was only a matter of time till awful announcing caught it. And like, if it happens once, no one cares, because nowadays everyone's falling for fake news. Like, this guy every single week is just spewing something that is completely false on all of the NBA affiliated networks. I'm like, somebody save this guy. And then he eventually like deleted the tweet and caught up. But golly, man. The same pettiness that drove Draymond to be an all-time great defender is the same pettiness that makes him respond to trolls online. Fair. Carla, you're still here. It's not past your bedtime? If OKC advances to the finals and J-Dub still isn't healthy, how much would that level the matchup for the Knicks? The only way the Knicks have a chance is if AJ Mitchell and J-Dub, I think, are out. But J-Dub clearly is an essential part of that team. He was put under the same spotlight that Chet Holmgren is right now. I have not forgotten the conversation around J-Dub after roughly game 3 against the Denver Nuggets. Bro, if you don't pick your shit up, you are going to get traded for Kevin Durant. As we all knew, Phoenix was looking to move him that offseason, and we're going to have ourselves a reunion in Oklahoma City. It's going to be the savior is here to help the team win after they fall short yet again. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wasn't good enough to take the team to a championship himself, so we need Kevin Durant. And J-Dub just snuffed that torch by going out there and hooping the rest of that series and being an essential secondary scorer en route to a championship. It is now on Chet Holmgren in a similar type of way. Bro, you got to go out there and leave your mark on this series. Otherwise, you are going to be traded in victory or defeat with this team knowing that you serve no purpose against Victor Wembanyama and Giannis is available. Giannis is the single best defender on the planet against Victor. The only guy that can hold his own without needing help. The only guy. Sneaker rage bait is your Mona Lisa. It's my favorite one to do. I'm gonna get I'm getting close to a shoe deal from it. Those tweets do millions of views, and now shoe companies are like, "Hey, can you wear ours?" How have people not? I've been doing the shoe tweet for 2 years. I see some of the same people in the chat thinking it's serious. What happened to reading comprehension? MCC says, never forget when Wob and Bradley Beal's wife went toe-to-toe. Well, that wasn't even a fight. It's like her and De'Aaron Fox's wife. Sometimes I'm like, how do I do this politely? Because you can tell when someone is heavily influenced by online discourse. They don't spend too much time on it. They don't understand the internet. And they're going up against someone who's been around since the big bang of social media. And I just know how to push their buttons without looking like an asshole. But Bradley Beal's wife specifically, I remember the original tweet was about when she responded to a video that wasn't even meant to put Bradley Beal on blast. It was more just analytical of how the Wizards that night were not able to get stops. I see Bradley Beal's wife in the chat, like, who the fuck are you? Blah, 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 this. Like, how dare you? And it wasn't even like Bradley Beal sucks or anything close to it. And my response was, at least one member of the Beal family's playing some defense tonight. And then she just goes fucking bonkers. I mean, and then it turned into a black versus white thing. So everyone was supporting you figure it out. That's all I said in response to her. But she was the original one to do that. And then what was it? De'Aaron Fox's wife. Maybe she might have been going through something mentally, because I looked at her timeline and I'm like, this is just not normal activity. And then she quote tweeted something I had to say about the Kings when they were struggling. And of course, De'Aaron Fox, who was right in the end, of course, me. With the disconnect, that was after he gave up the 4-point play to Jaden Ivey in the corner. And then we had the disconnect between De'Aaron Fox and Mike Brown, and that ultimately led to one guy being traded, one guy being fired on the tarmac. And talking about that situation, she was like, don't even listen to this guy. He has absolutely no clue about any of them. Like, and I don't think I even responded to her. But sometimes they usually just make fools of themselves. Oh, sorry. I got some... Let me catch up on YouTube really quickly. Cherry says they just finished renovations in the 30th Street station in New York, so just south of Penn. Is that what you're talking about? Emil says, Wob, where in New York City do you like to watch a Knicks game if you're not at the Garden? My house? I don't know where. I would look up Knicks fan TV. Sometimes they have a watch party, which could be a lot of fun. but I watch everything alone. It's really the only way that I enjoy it. I don't want to have conversations with other people during an important game. Max says, Wob, I just watched I Love Boosters. Would highly recommend. Oh, that must mean you're listening to my ad reads. I love Boosters. It's actually good. From esteemed director Kiki Palmer. A crazy heist comedy that has been compared to The Devil Wears Prada. I can do almost the entire ad read by heart now, but thanks for the recommendation. I'll check it out. I'm trying to watch Mandalorian and Grogu, but all of my illegal streaming service sites have been down. They've been coming for him. So I need one of them to resurrect so I can go back to streaming content without paying. The shoe bit is as serious as your glove. Oh, you mean this? It's a Dodge Charger. This has been on my wrist since 2012. Ooh, probably could be washed. Oh, Burrito Drops brought that back yesterday. Yes. Shoe bit is up there with the wrist guard. Yeah. You know how many people got mad at the wrist guard? When I was first doing those Knicks videos a couple years ago, the always starting off the video with the wrist guard in the picture plus the jerseys not framed behind drove the engagement through the roof on those. And now the algorithm picks it up. Like having to cater to algorithms sucks, but sometimes it's just necessary. So putting in those little bits has always helped. Top 3 movie of the year? I Love Boosters? Wow. All right. Okay, back to some Twitter chats. Did Castle foul SGA a lot and get away with it? He fouled him sometimes, yeah. But there's going to be a lot of fouls that are uncalled. It's the playoffs, man. That's the way that we want it. One more bet says the Nuggets and Avalanche giving Denver sports fans Battle of Okinawa vibes. You're going to have to explain yourself on that. What about the Battle of Okinawa is a letdown? The Battle of Okinawa, the Americans thought that the island had been deserted. They bombarded it, they landed, and there was just nobody there until they got to like halfway up the cliff. And then the whistle blew and it was on. AB says, off-topic question, why don't you go on people's podcasts often? Is it a time thing or is it a medium you're just not interested in? I can make time for it, but I usually don't do things unless I'm paid. And I don't ask people to come on my show unless they want to get paid. I think people should be paid for their time. Can't see the puck. Can't see the impressive physique of the athletes. Yeah, they're all hockey players are in pads and jerseys and helmets. Yeah, I mean, people have asked me. I don't think there's a single podcast I would go on. Maybe if I was in like the neighborhood. I mean, I'm sure there is a podcast, unless it's someone that is like in my network, someone that is contributing to my job, like someone within the SiriusXM network, right? That's my job. Sometimes my boss will say, you have to go do this, and I'll do it. But voluntarily, no. But I would say, like, if, I don't know, if Simmons wanted to do a show together in the summer and I'm not doing anything, I'm not going to ask him to get paid. I'll probably just do it. But it's got to be something that's worth my time. And I don't mean that in a pompous way, but that's just always been the way I've operated. I think people should be compensated for their time. And then I make sure that people are paid if we ever have them on and that's what they request. Julio says, I know Wob doesn't think you're nuanced if you think SGA sucks for flopping, but think I'm tired of SGA. Well, tonight he gave you plenty of reasons to be tired. And if you're tired of SGA, I'm telling you, you want him to keep falling over because that will harm his team if it is properly not called a foul. Wait, who won the hockey game tonight? Did the Kings, the Kings, Jesus, the Golden Knights, did they take a 3-0 series lead? Vegas sports, man. Vegas might be the new power player of professional sports, taking it from Boston. The Aces, the Knights might get an NBA team. I don't think the A's are winning anything anytime soon, or the Raiders. Carly says 1 a.m. is usually my wall washed. Carly, have I been correct in my assessment of what's going to happen to you as you progress throughout your 30s? I know at first you were a little scared of, oh God, am I about to be this old man that I'm watching? And I told you it's not that bad, but there are some drawbacks. But like going to bed and not caring anymore is going to bed early and not caring about social events, social status is by far one of the biggest benefits of getting old. You're just on your own time and your own schedule. Now your physical ability, your youth is lost with every day that passes. So you can't go out there and play basketball anymore. Your body hurts when you wake up. It takes longer to recover. But I love being a boomer. It's so much fun. Watch my World War II documentaries, light a candle, have a beer. It's Memorial Day weekend, watch some hoops. I don't give a shit what's going on else out there. All my friends are married with kids anyway. Go have a nice dinner. That's the number one thing to do when you get old, by the way. You're not going to bars anymore until they close. What you do is you go to a nice dinner, you stick around, you have a nightcap, and then you go home before the kids come out and have their time. I love that shit. It's so much fun. You go have a happy hour. You go happy hour, dinner, nightcap, live music, like a piano bar or something. Oh, that is such a good night out. That is such an enjoyable night out. Going from a nice dinner to a nice piano bar. Karzai says the sneaker rage bait and the burrito drop videos. How have people not caught on? I don't know. They usually, I don't know what to tell you. Do I have any memories of the 99 finals? I just remember going into that thinking we have no chance, and we didn't. I can't believe we won a game. That San Antonio Spurs team is one of the best of all time. I mean, it was the emergence of Tim Duncan as the league's best player. They were so good. My team was an 8 seed in the Eastern Conference in a lockout shortened season with Marcus Camby at center and Chris Dudley. Poor Chris Childs and Allen Houston out there against Antonio Daniels. No. Avery Johnson, Sean Elliott, Mario Elie, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Jaren Jackson Sr. Team was fucking good, man. And they shouldn't have even been in the finals because of the 4-point phantom Larry Johnson 4-point play. I threw that burrito down hard yesterday. I did it, and it did leak. It wasn't worth it because one of the sides opened up, but that's why you do it. What's next? Beef with Mama Eason? No, you know who used to be on my side was Miss Barbara's Green. Draymond's mom used to be a big-time WAB follower back in the day. Love the Cavs repost about the recommended fan conduct. Classic WAB retweet. Sometimes I retweet things just to get them into the zeitgeist, get them in so other people see it, and then I have an idea. I was really thinking about retweeting Darren Rovell last night with his AI tribute to Kyle Busch, where like the M&Ms were crying. I'm like, this is an all-time Darren Rovell tweet, but I knew something that egregious would do it on its own. I woke up this morning and it had like 5 million views. Yeah, sometimes I retweet things I'm trying to create a mess quietly. But I'm just hitting that retweet button. Sometimes I'll even unretweet so enough people see it, and then You can't come to my timeline and see that I'm responsible for getting that tweet out into. I do that sometimes on purpose. Yeah. Oh, I love slop. Yeah, I continue to be the Joker of NBA Twitter. I love living in the shadows. It's a hobby of mine at this point. Sometimes I'm just bored. Sometimes I'm pooping and I just want to it's so easy to piss people off. Oh, is that right? The Fed's been going after those illegal streaming sites because they're still working, but the servers are down. Yeah, I hear you, Ghost Panda Storm. Jerseys is my favorite Wabism. These? Oh, I love my jerseys. I've never had a girl walk out of this apartment because I had jerseys hanging on my wall. Okay. It's really not what people think it is. Yeah, Emil, you're right. If there's one podcast that I would just do, if there's one podcast that I would do if they asked without any fuss, it is Hoop Collective, just because I'm so close with those three. Those are like some of my closest friends in the business. Wendy and Bontemps are, I would say those two are in my circle of trust with Cassidy, Antonio, Sheed. Man, well, there's some executives that you guys don't know, but from like forward-facing talent, I would say it's those five for me. How did I meet Pablo Torre? I enjoyed the episode that you were a guest on. I've known Pablo forever. He just texted me one day. I was supposed to do that episode alone, but I kind of wanted someone else to be there because I was worried about getting banned from the garden, because he gave me a hint as to what it was, but I hadn't seen the actual footage until I sat down that day. And I'm like, if it's going to be that bad and we're going to be cracking jokes, I don't want to get banned, especially if the Knicks are going to win a title this year. So can we turn this into like a focus group? And recommended Jason. Carter says, I have a friend who is such a diehard Spurs fan. Our other friend has tickets to Game 6. He said he'd rather watch alone in his apartment. I feel like a lot of true fans would much rather that than go to the actual games, especially with such high stakes. Yeah. I will be going to the NBA Finals if the Knicks get to 3 wins, but I will not go to a game or invest emotionally until then. But yeah, for the most part, I like watching big games at home just so I can focus. And honestly, I just don't want to be social. And I don't want to be a dickhead either. Someone's like trying to talk to me, introduce themselves, and the game could be on mute with music on, get beer spilled on you. Man, I'm just trying to like lock in. Vegas came back from down 3 and won 5-3. Wow. Golden Knights. Man, the Golden Knights are popular in Vegas, man. Every time I go back home, to Henderson, there's Vegas night shit everywhere. I think that's where the practice facility is too. They are popular, very popular. Carly says, I hit 30 and my cynicism turned way the hell up, but it is nice just leaning into it and not giving a fuck. You have just spoken what it's like to be in your 30s into existence. I mean, that is, you become naturally cynical because you have life experience and you always assume the worst. You treat situations as guilty until proven innocent because you've been burned in the past and you don't want to be again. You're on your own time. I'm right there with you. I think that's very standard. I will agree with you there, Helwick. He says, no chance I'm going to bed any earlier when I'm in my 30s, 2 a.m. crew for life. I've been a 1 a.m., 2 a.m. guy my entire life as well. Like tonight, I'll just be up watching news and documentaries and try and bootleg a movie. JPZ says, thank you for finally releasing a burrito drop video. I've been asking and waiting, and finally, my day has come. You're welcome. If the Thunder play the Knicks, could SGA surpass Trae Young in the Bing Bong New York hatred annals? No, Trae Young's always going to be number one, I think. Hockey will always have that cult following vibe to it, gives the sport some unique charm. True. Yeah. Carter says story for the offseason, but do you think Utah gets up to number one pick? Are we headed for a draft day scenario from the movie Draft Day, where Kevin Costner's character is holding AJ Debonsa hostage and says, you got to give me all my first round picks back, plus that special teams player? You know they want AJ. But do they call Washington's bluff and say, we think you're going Peterson, we don't need to trade? That'll be interesting. Wow, a good app for listening to muted TVs is Tunity. Scan the TV and it will pick up the audio. That's a thing? How? How do you scan a TV? But then you have to have headphones in. I don't want the Knicks to get to 3 wins in the finals, but you do need to go to San Antonio if you've never been. Why? Is San Antonio that attractive of a destination? I mean, they make good Mexican food. It's my favorite type of food. I'll stay at Antonio's house and just go to the games. That simple. Yeah, I'm not bringing headphones to a bar, JP. I'll just stay at home. I'm fine. I'll meet y'all out after. Yeah, I bet I'd love the Riverwalk too. I like a lot of outdoor cafes, a lot of outdoor restaurants, good vibes there on the water. You mean that creek? Should I go to Galveston? Bo Callahan. Yeah. All right, friends. Chat's getting quiet. Bob's a big Alamo guy. Am I? The Alamo is a hilarious concept to outsiders. Everyone thinks it's in a remote field. It's in the middle of a shopping district downtown, right next to Haagen-Dazs. It's kind of like Munich. Munich is this weird city because it was so heavily bombed during the war, but some of the buildings survived. So you get some like 12th century castle where kings used to stay. And right next to it is a Starbucks in some brand new building. Galveston. What did I say? Don't spoil it, man. So I'm going to go watch right now. I have it on pause with 50 laps to go. Dave and Buster's 0.1 miles from the Alamo. I've been to Munich. You have some 500-year-old buildings that are just Galveston. Galveston. I think my way is right. Galveston. What did I say? This is out of control. All right. We will be back for Game 5, which is going to be Monday night, I think. Wait, Tuesday night. Tonight's Sunday, so Tuesday feels like a Saturday. I'm saying the V before the L. Galveston. All right, friends, go have a good Memorial Day weekend. I'm going to try and do the same. Carly, go get some much needed rest. Tell me when you start watching World War II documentaries and grilling meats like Tony Soprano. Then you'll really have made it. Until Tuesday, I will see you guys on the timeline. Deuces.